Hey there, creative minds and business enthusiasts. Welcome to Looks Like We Made It. I'm Izzy, head of production here at Howell Media, and one half of our father-daughter duo alongside my dad, Chris, our managing director. And I've messed that up, alongside my dad, Chris, our managing director. Together, we're diving into the world of video marketing, content creation, and all things creative. Each episode, we share real stories, expert tips, and the odd laugh along the way. This week, we're answering the question, how do I budget with unpredictable income? And we're joined by the brilliant Laurie Stirling, a growth and exit strategist. So, let's go.
Let's go. Welcome.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
That was a shorter intro.
Well done.
I wasn't quite ready there.
So that came out last episode. That was what we trialled then.
Here?
Yes. So I'm glad you were paying attention. But hello, Laurie.
Hi, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
You've been fully indoctrinated into the Howell madness now. So, so I feel like we've crossed paths in different ways in the sort of Sunderland Business Network. But this is really our first proper catch up.
Yes.
But with mics in front of us.
So your first proper catch up, microphones and cameras. And
nice to meet you.
Yes. So you are very brave for wanting to just come straight on the podcast, and I love how you just messaged them like, get me on that podcast.
Yeah,
and
let's do it.
Here we are. So really, you are the person to ask when it comes to how to budget with unpredictable income.
Yeah, I do more than just that, but that's definitely a question I can answer.
Tell me everything that I need to know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it probably comes from my background, really. Like, my very first job was in bookkeeping, and then was in like finance advice. What's the word? Mind blank.
Consultancy.
That's all right.
It was an agency.
Agency. Yeah.
It's not a game of charades.
No, I like throwing the odd word in there.
Good. I've got some editing to do right off the bat there. So
it's live.
Yeah, so straight into like finance was my like zone of genius right from the word go, and I was introduced to the world of business through bookkeeping, and it intrigued me. I was something that I knew I could either build my career through the corporate world, or I could build my career through entrepreneurship, and entrepreneurship was the one that highlighted like all the, everything that I wanted to do, gave me goosebumps. That was what excited me. And so when I was 21 years old, thinking I knew everything I needed to know about business because I had done some books once upon a time, I decided to launch my own business, and I took my husband along for the ride. He I don't know whether he still was happy about that, but we built a graphic design business, and then that turned into web design and then into web development. And we built that business to support our lifestyle, and that was, the ups and downs, the unpredictableness of having your own business. And we raised kids, we went on overseas holidays. It was a good, six-figure profit business at the time. We ended up selling that business, moving from Australia to the UK. But before we did that, I actually wanted to pivot into business coaching. I was sort of like, my kids had finished school. I'd been working in the back end of the business. It was running pretty smoothly up until that point. I'm like, well, what do I want to do now that I love to do, that I would do even if I didn't get paid for it? And the answer was budgeting. Like, why? And it was like most people would find a hobby and they'd find like painting or something or craft or some sort. But no, budgeting came to mind for me. So I'm like, because it was a question that popped up with other entrepreneurs, like how do you pay your taxes and, what do you put aside? And, this unpredictableness of budgeting a household on this, through our business. And so I launched it. I'm like, let's do this. I've got a few things that I can help teach people. So it started off like, well, we need to know what is the bare minimum survival budget that we need to be able to pay the bills no matter what. And then we wanted to do more than just survive. So we also had like a thriving budget of when everything's going well and we can pay ourselves a normal wage, what's that amount? And so we found sometimes we were bouncing between the survival wage and the thriving wage, and we needed some more consistency. So there was little systems that I built on top of each other to help us be able to understand paying ourselves a consistent wage and overcome this unpredictable nature of the business was still unpredictable. So
that's amazing.
You are definitely leaning against an open door. I mean, my background is also graphic design and that kind of thing from back in the day. And it is interesting that in the creative industry as a whole, it is a perennial problem. I mean, I think it's been called lumpy cash flow. You know, the kind of the troughs and peaks, and
that's right,
all this sort of stuff. And in a way, it kind of doesn't go away. It's just I've come to terms with the fact that it's the kind of nature of the industry that we choose to be in, and it applies. I think it applies across the board, unless you're very, very lucky or whatever, or you're doing it right. I'm not sure. So I'm intrigued as to understand, like, is your expertise in this field to do with budgeting with what you've got and what you get, or is it that you can apply a way of working to those businesses? Are they like almost like
like what comes first?
Well, no. Do you get my meaning? Like, are you?
That's right.
Can you? Have you got the magic? Have you got the magic ingredient to teach us how to have a consistent and reliable cash flow, please?
Yeah, I would say the magical ingredient would be have buffers, and in lots of different places. So one of the first things I introduce is the income that you make this month. Don't spend it until next month. So that way you know exactly the amount that you have to spend next month. And you'll know, is it a good month? Is it a quiet month? Like, do I actually need to start pulling in the belt now because next month is I've had a quiet month this month, so next month's budget is going to be a lot tighter. So that gives me a lot more runway, and that's our kind of buffer. And then, ideally, the more business, the longer you've been running your business, the more you can put aside in those abundant months. But then it's also a mindset that we can approach when we look at our business bank account and we go, "Ooh, there's money in there. I can spend it." It's a
cruise time.
Yeah, and
here's looking at you, Chris.
It's true, and it's Parkinson's law coming into play, that any resource that we have, it will grow and expand to the space that we give it. So if I look at my bank account and I'm like, oh, there's money, I'm going to spend it. Whereas if I if I put it away in pots, I put tax away in that pot, maybe I want to buy some equipment, I'll put that away in another pot. Then what I see, I can be a bit more frivolous in that account, and it's someone.
I think the current crop of sort of challenger banks, obviously I won't name any here, but I find that on a personal note a real bonus and a real great way to work, where you can have pots and you can set aside percentages and that sort of stuff. Because I think it works for us. And as I say, I won't name the banks in question.
No, but that concept of like micro accounting or micro budgeting, I think it is, or like where basically it's like you take little amounts of money and you sort of work them out in different ways.
I mean, do you think that there's a mindset required that doesn't naturally exist amongst creative people who are running businesses, or does it work across the board? Is it just kind of coincidental that you've got a background in the design field?
I think it's more creative, like, tend to suffer the most from it, but it does happen across the board. I think usually because it's like a untypical, what's the word? Neurotypical, the opposite of that.
Neurodiverse,
yes. They like tend to be in the creative field and not usually numbers, like analytical sort of people. So it's a bit of a like bury the head in the sand. I'm not going to think about it. Seems to be going all right, so I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. But yeah, it's sometimes crunch time comes where like actually looking at my numbers is a very grown up thing to do, and maybe if I look at my numbers, if it reveals a problem, then I can do something about it and fix the problem. If I look at my numbers and there's no problem, great, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. It seems to be working really well. So, you can,
And can you apply this logic from being kind of a self-employed single operator right the way up to sort of numerous people working in an agency across numerous
Absolutely.
fields. Is it a scalable
Yes,
thing that you're doing?
it is definitely scalable. So maybe the percentages that you put aside in different pots would change. So if you're a brand new business, I'd say put 1% aside into the tax pot and 1% aside into a profit pot. And then like most is going to be going towards expenses because you're in startup, you're reinvesting inside the business. As it grows, you want to tweak those numbers, adjust them as you go. And then you will get to a point that you might start paying yourself more money so increase that percentage. But then as the business grows and you bring on more employees, it'll swing back the other way where actually there's less money going towards the founder of the business, more going towards the employees, but I would actually increase the profit of the business. And what you use that profit for depends on the size of your business. So whether that is the profit goes towards reinvesting in the business, if the profit goes towards actually like giving a beneficiary to all the employees and everyone benefiting from having a bonus of all the hard work that we've been put in, or it might be creating more buffer inside the business just in case, a pandemic or something hits and, life doesn't go to normal.
Really? Yeah, no, we've never heard of that one.
Or it could be, future investments inside or, buying a new franchise or something like that, new ways of like growing and expanding your business. So the purpose of the money will change, but the way you allocate it, no, it won't. It's very scalable.
That's
Wow,
amazing.
it's amazing.
It's amazing talking to like an actual grown-up who knows like grown-up things. That's so cool. I think that's and that's something that, I mean, I've been in the creative in the time that I've been in the creative industry, it feels like I have witnessed wars, pandemics, recessions, like everything you can possibly imagine. It's like all the stuff that would make you not want to be in the creative industry happen, but we still show up, we're still here, and we're still doing our thing. But it happens like there's always quieter months, there's always busier months. And for me, it always feels like when I hit those quieter months, a bit like, how British people, when it snows, and we always act surprised that it snowed, and it happens every year.
It's a new concept for me.
Or like when we have a hot day and everyone goes, "Oh my God, it's a hot day!" But like I feel like saying it happens every year. We always seem surprised by it. For me, I know when the quiet months are, when the busier months are, but I always feel like I forget in the process of just going and doing it. And then and then I always feel like I'm on the back foot. But what would you say to people who know that there is unpredictability, but just can't seem to get into the rhythm of it?
Yeah, so it's to do with the percentage that we put into each of those accounts. So if I would say one goes towards operating expenses, a percentage goes towards tax, a percentage goes towards owner's pay, and a percentage goes towards profit. If I go back to the owner's pay one, that's not just like a percentage goes into my bank account, my personal bank account. It actually goes into a separate account so that in the abundant months that will build up, and then in the lower months I can draw on that and be able to take the consistent wage, the thriving wage throughout that entire time.
See, okay.
I think that's a lesson that it took me many, many years to learn.
Yeah.
That there's a difference between the business's money and just because your name's over the door doesn't necessarily mean that it's your money.
Yeah.
It's like confession time, isn't it?
No, where were you when I needed you the most? But it is in a sense that even now, I just want to make films and go to events and make stuff.
Yeah.
The financial reality of owning and running a business, as Izzy says, it always comes as a surprise. Less so now because I've been at it a while. But like every VAT bill, every tax bill, the end of every month, when you got to do the wages and all that sort of stuff. It's almost like, well, that's come around fast. I wasn't expecting that. Yeah. Or the other thing I do is where, and again, I guess it's like a human nature thing, where things look like a long way in the future. Mm-hmm. So you look at VAT is a great example. You think, well, actually, the next VAT bill's not due till August. Yeah. Oh, there's tons of time. And I think that's a real. I think discipline is the word, but as you say, that that's not a natural bedfellow with creative type type people.
Yeah, because that's it. It's being organised. But obviously, you've come from a creative background and obviously a more of an accounting background.
Yeah.
But what is it? Because as someone who, I mean, I'm going to throw my hands up here and say I've always been rubbish at maths, always been rubbish at... I've like anything that I remember, Chris helping me with my homework as a kid, and that your head would be in your hands. And
I'm only because, sorry, I'm going to be controversial here. I don't think anybody's rubbish at anything. Do you know what I mean? I think
it's a muscle that can be exercised.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I don't think maybe I learned it the right way.
No,
I don't know.
But I suppose because of particular sort of drawing and painting, and I'm really passionate about the fact that I think everybody can draw and paint. Everybody's got it. Every child can draw a picture, and they're fantastic and they're so expressive.
And they've got the imagination.
And I dabble with pottery, and you go to a pottery class or whatever, and people go, I can't do that, I can't make that. And actually, when you get down to it, everybody can.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, that's rubbish, and actually it isn't. It's their thing. So
that's right.
But you can do maths.
It's only taken nearly 30 years for you to say that.
But don't do the tax returns.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like I think yes, but then for me, maybe it was the way I just didn't enjoy it, and then that makes you not feel good at it, etc. But what is it about you that's made you want to go into budgeting and into talking about this stuff that now that you've spoken about it sounds exciting, and I'm fascinated by it, because I think it's you've turned my perspective on thinking about that into something that's a bit more hopeful versus, so you're looking at the positive, you're looking at the thriving part of it, and the sort of the
this is turning into therapy.
I just really feel but what is it that sort of made you want to kind of go into that world and do that?
I think it's when I realised the power of the numbers. So classic story is building websites, and I had this moment of realisation that typically it took 2 months between when we got a lead and when we get our first deposit to be able to pay for their website. And so 2 months, and then we had the capacity to build usually 2 websites per month. And I'm like, okay, so that's 4 websites in 2 months. So I need to make sure I'm having, 4 leads ready, like in the pipelines, so that we can consistently have that income come through when the next, client's finished, the next one can be standing with their money holding out to collect it. And when I realised it was a numbers game, I was like really excited about telling my husband, and he's like, went straight over his head. But I'm like, but this is the key to not having to jump from sales, to jump to delivery, to jump back to marketing, and jump back to networking all the time to try and get that inconsistent cash flow. If I actually saw the numbers and went, only need to go to 1 networking event a month if I can get 2 leads from that networking event. And then if I don't get that 2 leads, well, then I can go to a second one, and then I'm sure I'll get 2 leads from that. So it was a numbers game. And when I realised that was the key to the consistency, it all sort of clicked into place, that this was the magic.
You've got logic, not chaos.
That must be your strapline, because that's the thing. It's like, and thinking of it in that way, when I used to work in a mobile phone shop many years ago, and you'd have like targets to reach, and there'd be like, you'd have to sell 15 of one thing or 10 of the other thing, and that's focus. All you had to think about were those numbers. But really, in the creative world, we get excited by what comes next. We're like, ooh, exciting project.
We get excited by most things, don't we? But,
yeah, as you could tell by our energy, we're like, woo.
But I think also as a business owner, it's a bit of a double-edged sword at times, because you don't have to do the things, the things you don't want to do. You do them because you kind of have to do them, but you're dragged. I mean, personally, I'm sort of often dragged kicking and screaming to do the things I don't really want to do, because I'd rather be doing something else. So I think that's a bit like your kind of comment on maths, really, because you don't like it, you're not going to make it a priority. So I think that, as I say, I'm just essentially saying the same thing, but I'm so fascinated by the fact there is an answer, there is a solution to the issue.
I think it's part of like the reverse engineering the numbers, which sounds very mathematical. It's not. It's about, like, if I was to say the goal is to make 10 grand at the end of the month, that is what I would call a lag metric. Sometimes they're called lagging indicators, and that's where KPIs are usually built off. So let's say, the end of the month is, by the end of May, we want 10 grand, that we've made in our bank account. You get to the end of the month and I either have made it or I haven't made it. I have no control over that number. And that's why it's a lag metric. It happened in the past. I have no control over it in the future.
Okay.
So what I can find are the lead metrics along the way that say, okay, if I go to 4 networking events, then I'm going to very likely get 8 leads from that. And then those 8 leads will turn into, maybe conversion rate is 4 actual websites. And so, like, understanding that the lag metrics along the way, I can control those. Like, the lead metrics I can control. So I can control how many networking events I go to. I can control how many videos I put out per week. I can control how many, prospects I reach out to, or comments I make on LinkedIn. Right. They're the lead metrics that if I count those, then I'm very likely going to hit my lag metric at the end.
So how do you set about that kind of methodology to do that? Like, is it just is it pure experience, or do you say like using perhaps LinkedIn posts or just like what you say in those posts? Do you just put a load of stuff out there and kind of see what trickles back and then use that as your base point? Or is it more scientific than that? Is it?
Yeah, it's a bit of experimentation, but it's also what has worked in the past. Right. So that's the experience as well as experiment.
Because I'm intrigued as well by if you go to, I'd love to go to a network meeting knowing that I'm going to get 2 leads from it.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of the nature of the industry that you were in? You kind of knew that, or was it that you were going to the right networking events, or was it that you were in an environment where you just knew there were people looking for your services, or a combination of those, or was it luck?
It was the goal that I went in there wanting to do.
Right. Okay.
So I made that happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's very mindset and very driven kind of behaviour, isn't it?
That's right. And I think, because I've started a YouTube channel, just it's brand new, but part of that is like the consistency. If I am consistent, I have a time slot in my calendar where each week I film 2 videos and I publish one, and the other one I have as a backlog. And sometimes I have weeks where I can't actually film it because I'm going travelling or something like that. But if I'm consistent with those 2, just that appointment with myself, then I'm going to put that out. That's part of the consistency. I know that's eventually going to affect my sales down the line. So it sort of helps with motivation and getting things done.
And
do you have a book?
we like books from people who are experts. I think that's amazing, because I think really when you think about the consistency element as well, is that something in the video world that I always push to people, is that volume is as important as value, I think, in some respects, in terms of not churning out stuff for the sake of it, but just being aware that a lot of content is in smaller doses is better than one big good video and calling it a day. So that's something that we preach at Howell. But I like how you were saying about how making it an appointment with yourself, because I think that's the thing with what we were saying about, like I was saying earlier about like how hairdressers always have the hair in a ponytail that looks messy, but everyone else's hair they do looks fantastic. Is that there's the expectation that everyone else's stuff comes first, but what you're effectively saying is to put your own put yourself first in that respect.
Do you know, I'm not just saying it because you're here. What you're saying to me makes sense, and I think that there's a, I try, and every day's a school day and all that kind of stuff. I do try as a business owner and slightly influential person, tiny bit maybe.
That's the imposter syndrome coming through.
I do try and take on board stuff around me and learn from it. But it's interesting that one of the common threads in events I go to and kind of like seminars I sit in and all that kind of stuff, everyone talks about accountability, and everyone talks about if you hire me as your business coach, I'll make you accountable. But it never seems to be broken down into kind of like easily understandable bite-sized chunks, and I feel like you've even in the sort of 10 minutes I've known you.
Yeah.
I feel like you've kind of done some of that, because accountability is such a big word, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, have you done the stuff? And it's like, well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know what it is yet. I mean, but I think that there's little
breaking it down, isn't it? And that's it. I mean, in terms of accountability, is that something that you find with your clients that's maybe the biggest thing you have to deal with, or what is the thing that you find is the number one thing you're sort of helping people overcome?
Accountability helps when I'm building a new habit. Once it's a consistent habit, it's fine. Like finances, for example, looking at my finances once a week or once a month is easy for me because it's a habit I've done for a very long time. I don't need accountability to do that, because I know if I don't do it, then I don't have money at the end of the week.
You have that life lesson already in place.
Exactly. But it can be applicable in other ways. So like, eating or exercising and things like that. If that's a new skill that you're still developing and building, accountability does help.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you should say about like the making appointments with yourself. I even have a system for that, because if you've been to one of my talks, or maybe if you've seen my YouTube channel, I talk about the 5 bottlenecks inside a business, which is brand awareness, nurturing your leads, sales conversions, delivery, and cash flow. So today we're focusing on the cash flow one. But me sitting down and having an appointment with myself to build my brand awareness for YouTube videos, that is another one of the bottlenecks. So it's a client journey that everyone you work with hits one of those touch points. No matter what size business you are, like we're talking about that scalability, if I'm a one-man band, then my clients will still touch all of those touch points. But if I have, 20 employees, my company will have all of those touch points. Not necessarily me, but they will still get done. So if I can make sure that at least for me, one day a week, I am consistently putting towards one of those bottlenecks, then I know that I can keep that flow happening. So going out for networking events will help with those numbers, with my sales conversions, bring in those leads. Like that's a sales call will happen on a different day. So I'll have set days, which I call theme days, which touch each one of those bottlenecks.
Wow! So it's like a cycle almost that you go through, and then the weekend you're like, oh.
And do you feel that people concentrate on one of those 5 as an example that they find easiest to accomplish?
Yes.
I suppose he looks around like in our business.
Go on then, Chris.
Well, I'm saying like kind of our branding and our sort of brand awareness, and I think we're pretty good at that.
Yeah.
Because I really like it and I really enjoy it, and that gives me pleasure to see those things.
If you give Chris a project, he commits to it.
But perhaps some of the other ones around that discipline. On a personal note, I'd need steering to be able to deliver those. So that I think discipline seems to be the word I'm taking away from.
This is just an intervention, isn't it?
It is basically. This is like kind of an intervention masquerading as a podcast.
Laurie's going to slap her invoice on the table and be like, "That was advice." But that is amazing, because I mean, like,
this could run.
We could pick your brains for a very long time. But so my sort of final few questions, really, I suppose, go into. Where can people find you? If someone is listening and wants to work with you and wants to kind of engage your services, what sort of things can you help them with? What do you do? And how can you change their lives and blow their minds like you have for us? So,
Well, I have a quiz that talks about what is your biggest bottleneck. So you could straight away find out which area do I need to concentrate on the most. My website is lauriestirling.com. STIRLING. I think some people get that mixed up. And you can go to my website, do the quiz, and after that we can do a free strategy session to say, okay, this is my bottleneck, what can I do to open that up? And then once a quarter I do a boardroom event where we come and we realize, okay, this is my bottleneck and here are my financial goals and what are the numbers that I need to work backwards to find what they are. And we'll come up with a marketing strategy for the next 90 days just to keep us focused on what are our theme days and what is the traction task that I need to work on, sort of the working on the business, not in the business. So the theme day is working in it. The traction task is working on it. So we need a bit of both to happen consistently.
Amazing. And so when is your next boardroom event?
27th of June, but it happens every quarter.
Oh, fab. And are there still spaces?
Oh, yes.
Oh.
There's maximum of 10, but if I get more people than that, I'll probably put on a second one.
Yeah, that's amazing. Oh, well, I mean, that's happening in Newcastle?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
fab. That's exciting because I think
In person.
Oh, brilliant. That's even better because I like face-to-face kind of
Same.
conversation. But and then final thing that I wanted to ask you is, I've noticed obviously on LinkedIn you're emerging onto YouTube as well.
Yeah.
How are you finding the world of making your own videos? When you make that appointment for yourself, how are you finding that? Because I've noticed you've been putting more out, which I think is brilliant.
I think it's a big, I'm such a perfectionist, and putting things out that aren't perfect is just so against everything that I'm used to doing, and I'm doing it anyway. So I'm pretty proud of myself.
Brilliant. That is amazing. That is the mindset to have as well. 'Cause that's what...
If you waited until they were perfect, you would never do it. There's not a. I mean, we are, I don't know, 1,800 and something projects into the. We've made almost 2,000 films, and every single one could have been better.
Hey.
No.
To who?
Am I fired?
No. What I mean though is that you look back and think, if only we had that, or if only we had a bit more time, or could have reshot that, but ultimately it does. I'm not saying, and you never settle, but that's also a trait of an artistic person, that half the battle for anybody painting a picture is, when's it finished? When do you put the brush down?
Yeah,
and the same applies for design. The same applies for filmmaking. The same applies for any creative endeavor. That you can always keep tweaking a little bit. So you've given us lots
to think about. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure a lot of all of our audience will definitely take plenty away from that. So that is brilliant, and thank you so much, Laurie. And what I have before I end each podcast, as I warn people when they come in on the podcast, that I do a little question at the end just to. It's like an icebreaker, but the other side. So it's like the end of a podcast. So this one I have is
ending icebreaker.
An ice freezer? Anyway, so basically this question is, you have to give a TED Talk on something that isn't your profession. What is it?
Ooh.
Oh, see, I like it when I get that noise.
So you can...
So the topic has to be
something you can speak confidently about.
Yes.
Like a topic you can feel confidently about,
but it
that you know
your job.
little or nothing about.
That isn't your job.
But then you're straying into sort of mastermind a little bit here, aren't you? I would talk about family and raising children.
And how successful you were.
Well done.
Yeah. No, about... Okay. No, it's about, Oh, I get it now. Sorry. I'm so slow. I'm so slow.
What, you mean I'm your daughter.
Yes.
So family and raising children. Yes. Okay, great.
Yes. I would say probably oil painting. It's something
very cultured.
That I've been dabbling with just the last couple of years, but it was sort of like I tried it and I'm like, I think I'm good at this. And so that turned into my newest hobby. So
wow. And what sort of stuff do you paint?
At the moment, Australian birds. But I paint all sorts, faces or scenery.
Wow.
There's no end to your talent. That's amazing. I think mine would probably be, because I am a history nerd, I'm a book nerd. Mine would probably be talking about some kind of historical event and really hamming it up and being quite dramatic about it. I don't know which one, maybe the Tudors or something that I get excited or nerdily stimulated talking about. But a Bronte, yeah. I did my dissertation on the Brontes and I got to know them so well. I can't think about them anymore without thinking I have to do a deadline. So thank you so much, Laurie. That was amazing. And that's a wrap on this episode of Looks Like We Made It. Thanks for tuning in, whether you're here for the video marketing insights, the storytelling magic, or just to hear me and my dad talk shop. We drop a new episode every other Tuesday, so hit that follow button and stay tuned for more tips, real life experiences, and behind the scenes stories from the world of content creation. If you want to keep the conversation going, you can find us on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and our website. Just search for Howell Media and say hi. We'd love to hear your thoughts, answer your questions, or even have you on the show just like Laurie. If you've got a great story to share or fancy joining us for a chat, drop us a message. We're always looking for inspiring guests just like Laurie. And until next time, keep creating, keep storytelling, and remember, every great piece of content starts with an idea, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye for now.
Bye.